A curious young man named XANE VIPER once stumbled upon an ancient sword, not knowing the great danger that was to come with it, which at the time he was weak. He began to pick up the weapon, but only to be overwhelmed by the power the sword obtained. It soon attempted to take over XANE's mind. In the midst of fighting back the urge, the sword manages to control him for 1 second by trying to take over his body, executing Harakiri. Just as the sword excels towards XANE's face, he managed to regain consciousness as he feels a pool of blood drawing from his left eye. At this moment, he begins to scream in agony as he has never felt this much pain in his life. His tears evaporate with the heat of anger towards the sword. Unfortunately, the sword uses anger to his benefit, manipulating XANE's now vulnerable state, thus completely taking over the young man's mind and leaving him to black out. As he wakes up from what seemed like a crazy nightmare, he soon sees 2 individuals, dead and shredded before his very eyes. Figuring out that one of his worst nightmares had came to pass, XANE sobs for hours until his eyes run dry. Due to this happening, very later that night, he buried the 2 bodies not too far away from the small village he lived in. Before leaving the self-graveyard, he says a small prayer for his now deceased mother and father. Soon afterwards, he walks towards the nearest river stream to throw the sword down the pattern of the water, glowing less and less bright. As he is walking back, he suddenly runs into his only friend, Puck. Puck greets him with a warming hello, only to become hesitant walking any closer towards XANE. He witnesses blood all over XANE's body and begins to question what happened. XANE trusts him enough to explain the situation. Puck is soon lost for words, not even being able to look at XANE, since he was missing an eye. XANE quickly tells him to keep this hidden. Puck could only nod in agreement. Later on that night, after cleaning the red stains left in his house, he attempts to sleep, but picks up on what smells like burning wood. Yelling chants crescendos towards his location. Suddenly, a Molotov cocktail came crashing through his window. This startles XANE to run outside. He sees an angry mob before him, looks all around, sees Puck. Puck nervously admits that he was too afraid and didn't want to die. With what the village had learned, they rallied up to cast him out. They began to throw just about everything at him, for they knew the danger that he could bring on their home. With each other getting riled up as the next, they soon chased him down with the intent to be rid of him altogether. The adrenaline of the mob alerts him to run without hesitation. Feet matching the tempo of his heartbeat, he doesn't witness where he is leading, off a cliff. Without looking forward to avoid being hit, he is suddenly challenged with the decision to jump off and face the angry mob. Before realizing, he stumbled upon the uneven ground and is now airborne. As the mob arrives at the tip of the fall, they see he is now nowhere to be found, leaving them to believe he was now dead and out of their hands as they slowly turn around and fuse. Two weeks goes by, and XANE hears the sounds of a home laboratory. Once awake, he freaks out believing he is dead, but is slowly calmed down after a man stabilizing his body. The man soon walks over into XANE's sight as he is tied down to the bed. XANE begins to freak out, asking questions rapidly, not giving the other man a second to answer one. Though he starts with the most important one, telling him he had found him the very next day, early in the morning before sunrise, just as he was gathering pools of water, where he'd stayed miles away from any other river source. The man said,
"He was barely alive when I found you. Almost could say paralyzed. Luckily enough, I was able to fix you in time."
XANE replied.
"Fix me?"
Little did XANE know, this man was a self-independent engineer. The man explained how he had to surgically install cybernetic parts inside him in order for him to keep living and be mobile. XANE thanks him, but quickly tells him he was better off dead.
"Why save me? You're only asking for trouble."
The man tells him that he reminded him of his much younger brother that he tried to save the same way. He failed in doing so after bringing him back from a retreated mission from where his brother was put in a critical condition. The man thought maybe he could try again, but also wanted to know why he was in danger. XANE soon explained the situation of his fall. With this knowledge, the man tells him,
"The sword you speak of was directly by you when I found you. If somehow connected to you, maybe it supported your fall enough for you to still be living. Why? I don't know."
As the man begins to do research of the sword, XANE ponders back to when he threw it down the river while observing his newly features, believing that no matter what, it was tied to this thing. The man finds information that can later be explained on the origins of how the sword was cursed in the first place. From what they found, the sword was used by an ancient samurai many years ago in Japan. The man who wielded the sword soon made a name for himself after being very skillful, though he had gone mad for bloodlust. Many villagers poured their all to place a bounty on his head. They said his soul became so evil that it poured right back into the sword itself, lasting off his will alone. The man shakes his head, knowing the pain of causing death on others, for he told XANE that he too once used to kill, only until his brother was killed on the mission. After that fateful night of his, he soon retired as a ninja, moved far away, and would go on to study anatomy and engineering. After getting acquainted with one another, XANE is eager to ask,
"Get me stronger!"
The man hasn't trained in years, but still has the teachings fresh on his mind from his father's discipline. He refused for the simple fact that XANE reminded him too much of his brother. XANE soon told him that he needed to get stronger in order to be free from the bond of the sword. The man, knowing that the sword will only bring more pain if not taken care of, he soon comes to the conclusion of training XANE, knowing that every outcome he may face shall not always be in his favor. After getting well acquainted with one another, the man reveals his name to be Chameleon. He soon goes on to train XANE to the best of his abilities for 2.5 years, teaching him his ways of staying hidden, blending in, and stealth. Through intense training and dieting, XANE learns to wield the cursed sword to his liking, but still not free of his power. He even learned to use other weapons to become more well-rounded. After this time, his left eye is now healed due to Chameleon finding more resources to create a cybernetic eye for XANE's left side. He soon began his journey after the last day of training for so long, to find someone that can help him with his curse. Still knowing the danger that may come with wielding such a thing, he also never forgot the last words his mother spoke to him. Never give in to hatred, for if you do, it would only bring more pain, which haunts him from time to time in his deep dreams. By leaving his old name behind with his past, he now goes by his new code name, Snake.